While much of the world scrolls past headlines and waits for the next viral panic, something far more substantial is happening beneath the surface. Imagine waking up to the sound of hundreds of drones in the Ukrainian sky, or hearing about a total communications blackout right at the front line. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Israel and Iran are engaged in a shadow war that refuses to cool down, with sabotage missions, drone swarms, and warnings of retaliation. But the real question is, what signals actually matter? What are the signs that point to real escalation? And which stories are just noise in a world overloaded with crisis? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll get the facts and the context straight from the most credible sources. No hype, no panic, just the reality of escalation risk as it's unfolding right now. Over the past 48 hours, Ukraine has faced the largest drone offensive ever seen in this war. According to today's reporting from The Guardian and several frontline open source accounts, more than 700 Russian made and Iranian-designed drones crossed the border in a single coordinated wave, overwhelming air defenses and striking critical infrastructure across the country. At the same time, a sudden blackout hit the Starlink network along parts of the Ukrainian front, leaving command posts and air defense teams struggling to coordinate. These incidents are not happening in a vacuum. Just as Europe is struggling to respond, the confrontation between Israel and Iran is heating up in ways that feel both new and strangely familiar. Israeli intelligence operations, including targeted sabotage missions deep inside Iranian territory, have triggered mass missile and drone launches from Tehran in retaliation, aimed at both Israel itself and American bases in the Gulf. In the background, Russia is quietly deepening its technical partnership with Iran, including the recent launch of a communications satellite for Tehran, an event covered in detail by AP News only a few days ago. This is not just the usual game of brinkmanship. These are tangible moves that reveal a shifting balance of power and a growing risk of simultaneous crises. If you want to understand what's really happening, you need to look beyond the headlines and track the patterns that connect all these events. Let's start with Ukraine, because the scale of the latest attacks is something no analyst can ignore. In the last 48 hours, Russia has launched more than 700 drones in a single night, the largest wave so far recorded in the conflict. These are not the old Soviet relics of past wars, but Shahed drones, first designed in Iran and now assembled in Russian factories using fast, low-cost supply chains. The result, as confirmed by The Guardian and by live air raid data from multiple Ukrainian cities, is a battlefield where the advantage is shifting towards whoever can deploy more, not just whoever has the most advanced technology. Patriot air defense systems supplied by the United States, as well as European NASAMS batteries, have been pushed to their limits. Ukrainian commanders are reporting a higher rate of successful interceptions than ever before. But still, a significant number of these drones are getting through, striking fuel depots, power stations, and logistics hubs. What makes this different from past attacks is the saturation effect. By launching so many drones at once, Russia is forcing Ukrainian defenses to make hard choices, using expensive interceptor missiles against targets that cost a fraction to produce. Defense News and Euronews have both published detailed breakdowns of how this asymmetry is creating real pressure on the Ukrainian war effort. It's not just the material cost, it's the psychological toll. Civilian populations are spending more nights in shelters, and the sense of uncertainty is growing. Ukrainian leaders, in interviews with Reuters and AP News, are warning that without a new wave of Patriot systems and more ammunition, even the most advanced defenses may be overwhelmed. The picture that emerges is not one of immediate collapse, but of a war that is slowly shifting in favor of cheaper, mass-produced weapons, a dynamic that Western planners are watching with increasing concern. Just as the drone attacks reached their peak, another threat emerged that few outside the military pay attention to, but which could decide the future of this war. The Starlink blackout, reported by The Guardian's European team and confirmed by official Ukrainian sources, was not just a technical hiccup. Starlink, the satellite internet constellation run by SpaceX, is the digital backbone of Ukraine's command and control system. It keeps drone operators connected, lets air defense batteries receive real-time targeting data, and ties together every level of military and civilian communication at the front. When this network goes down, even for a few hours, the impact is immediate and serious. Ukrainian troops reported delays in launching counterattacks and gaps in their situational awareness, a vulnerability that Russian forces are eager to exploit. Cybersecurity analysts cited by Business Insider and Defense One point to a rapid evolution in Russian electronic warfare capabilities. With new jamming and spoofing systems deployed along the border, Russia is now able to interfere with both satellite signals and ground communications, adding a new layer of complexity to the already brutal fight for control. This isn't just about the here and now. It raises long-term questions about what happens when an entire army depends on a single commercial network. Western governments are beginning to realize that the privatization of critical infrastructure may be a strategic risk, and future conflicts could be decided not just by who has the best missiles, but by who controls the data and the connections that make those missiles work. Meanwhile, while the focus is on Ukraine, a very different kind of escalation is taking shape in the Middle East. Over the past several weeks, Israel has stepped up its campaign of sabotage and covert action inside Iran, including attacks on missile production facilities, nuclear sites, and other key infrastructure. These operations, widely attributed to the Mossad by sources quoted in AP News, Reuters, and international analysts, are not just isolated events. They are part of a sustained effort to delay or degrade Iran's ability to project force across the region. In response, Iran has launched waves of drones and missiles targeting both Israeli territory and American bases in the Gulf, including the high-profile strike on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Although most of these missiles and drones were intercepted, with U.S. and Israeli air defenses working in close coordination, the symbolism of these attacks is hard to ignore. Iran wants to show that Israeli deterrence is not absolute, and that it can strike back even if the immediate damage is limited. The new element here is Russia's involvement. Just days ago, Moscow launched the Nahid-2 communications satellite for Iran, a move that was covered by AP News and quickly picked up by both Western and Middle Eastern outlets. This partnership is not just about sharing technology, it's about building a strategic bridge that could reshape the balance of power across two continents. For Israel and its allies, the challenge is not just military, but also about how to maintain deterrence when the adversary's capabilities are evolving so quickly and with the backing of other global players. What these crises reveal is not just the intensity of the fighting, but the way alliances are shifting in real time. Russia and Iran are moving closer, exchanging technology, intelligence, and political support without ever tying themselves to a single, irreversible commitment. Their partnership is practical, built on necessity and shared adversaries, but always with an eye on their own interests. On the other side, the United States and NATO are facing the challenge of responding on two different fronts. In Europe, their involvement in the defense of Ukraine is becoming more direct and more costly, while in the Asia-Pacific, tensions over Taiwan are pushing Washington and its partners to invest in joint military exercises and new forms of deterrence. According to recent analysis from Reuters, the Times UK, and the Atlantic Council, the United States is now at real risk of being stretched too thin. Mark Rutte, the new NATO Secretary General, has warned that a two-front conflict against Russia and China is no longer just a theoretical scenario, but a real possibility unless member states boost their defense spending and coordination. The concept of overstretch is taking on new meaning as Western alliances try to maintain credible deterrence in multiple theaters without weakening their position anywhere. This is a moment where every move, every exercise, and every new deployment is watched not just for its military value, but for the message it sends to adversaries and allies alike. In a world where every news cycle seems designed to trigger panic, how can you tell when a real crisis is coming? The most reliable indicators according to analysts like Michael Kaufman at the Carnegie Endowment and the team at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, are the moves you can't fake. Mass mobilizations of troops, unexpected evacuations of embassies, sudden closures of civilian airspace, sharp spikes in energy prices, and waves of coordinated cyber attacks. These are the signs that something fundamental is changing. Before the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, weeks of satellite images and logistical data pointed to a real buildup, long before politicians would say it out loud. Now, with crises multiplying across the globe, the key is to watch for similar patterns happening at the same time in different regions. When you see major military exercises ramping up in Eastern Europe, new deployments in the Pacific, and cyber disruptions in both theaters, you are looking at a potential shift in the global risk landscape. At that point, rumors and dramatic headlines become less important than the hard facts you can verify. So here's a question for you. What signals do you watch for when you want to know if the world is really on the edge? Leave your answer in the comments. And as we move to the next section, I'll share my own view on what these trends mean for the future. Let's stop for a moment and really think this through, because the real challenge for anyone trying to make sense of all this is not just to separate truth from fiction, but to understand how the very process of escalation is being rewritten right before our eyes. In the past, global crises followed a kind of predictable script. You would see troop movements, dramatic speeches at the United Nations, open threats, and then maybe a moment of actual confrontation. Today, that script is gone. The perception of risk is not only shaped by what happens on the battlefield, but by a constant barrage of competing narratives, psychological operations, and information campaigns that move faster than any tank column ever could. Every attack, every blackout, every military drill is instantly amplified by a global ecosystem of media, influencers, official spokespeople, and automated accounts, creating a kind of rolling systemic anxiety that seeps into public opinion, markets, and even the calculations of world leaders themselves. This anxiety isn't just a side effect, it's a strategic tool, sometimes even the main event. If you look beneath the noise, you can spot a shift that's as important as any headline: the normalization of low-intensity conflict as a permanent background to daily life. Hybrid tools like cyber attacks, sabotage missions, infrastructure disruption, and mass drone swarms are no longer used as last resorts. They are now standard elements of modern power. More and more, these operations spill across borders and connect separate theaters of crisis. So what happens in Ukraine, in Gaza, in the skies over Taiwan, or on the streets of Tehran is no longer isolated, but part of an interactive, global dynamic. This changes the very psychology of conflict. Because when escalation happens in slow motion, in waves of incremental moves, it becomes much harder to recognize the tipping point until you're already past it. And that is the real danger, not a single day when the world erupts, but the slow acceptance of a new normal, where every night brings a new alert, every week a fresh cyber attack, and every month another standoff that blurs into the background. Over the coming months, I expect this pattern will only intensify. We are likely to see more actors, not just states, but also non-state groups and private networks, willing to push the limits, experiment with gray zone tactics, and accept much higher levels of risk, not for immediate battlefield gains, but for information victories, psychological leverage, or even just to see how the other side reacts. The rules that used to govern international behavior are being tested and stretched, sometimes quietly, sometimes in plain sight. And while it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the speed and complexity of all this, the real antidote is not to retreat into cynicism or denial, but to become smarter and more deliberate in how we read the signals. For analysts, policymakers, and especially for this community, the challenge is to cut through the static, to recognize which movements are theater and which are substance, and to understand that the most important changes often unfold in patterns, not in breaking news. This is why Safety Zone exists, because the power of a community that shares insight, questions assumptions, and tracks early warning signs together is far greater than any single source or algorithm. If you are part of this conversation, you are already training yourself to spot the difference between panic and preparation, between rumor and reality. And in a world where clarity is rare, that might be the most important skill of all. As the breaking news cycle keeps turning, here at Safety Zone, we keep our focus on the signals that actually matter, the ones that can really change the global scenario. If you've made it this far, you are part of a minority who wants to understand, not just react. Subscribe to the channel, share in the comments which signals you follow, and above all, stay vigilant, because the difference between panic and real preparedness is all about knowing how to read what really counts.